We all worry about staying sharp as we get older. But what if one of the most powerful tools to protect your brain wasn't some new pill or a complicated puzzle, but a choice? A choice you could make today. Even if you've been a smoker for years, new science offers some pretty incredible hope about what it really means to quit. So let's dive into that. All right, here's our roadmap. We're going to start with the aging brain in general, then look at the damage smoking can do. After that, we get to the really good stuff, the science behind quitting, and we'll unpack the data that shows why it is never, ever too late to make a change. So first up, let's just talk about the aging brain. This is something that's on pretty much everyone's mind. Now, it's really important to draw a line in the sand here. We've all done it, right? You walk into a room and forget why, or you can't find your keys for the 10th time. That's totally normal. What we're actually talking about here is severe cognitive decline, the kind of changes that start to seriously mess with your day-to-day life.
Yeah, and that kind of severe decline, that's not just a standard part of getting older. It's often a symptom of really serious medical conditions, like Alzheimer's, other types of dementia, or what can happen after a stroke. So when we talk about protecting our brain health, we're really talking about lowering our risk for these things.
So how do we lower that risk? Well, that brings us right to our next section, and the connection between brain health and a huge risk factor, smoking. Look, the science on this is crystal clear. There's really no debate. We know from decades of research that smoking significantly ramps up a person's risk for that severe cognitive decline we were just talking about. And that leads us to the one question that's at the very heart of all of this. It's the question that people who have smoked for years, maybe their whole adult lives, ask themselves. Is it too late for me? Is the damage already baked in? Well, that brings us right here to the power of quitting. And the answer to that big, scary question, well, it's incredibly hopeful. And there it is. A huge new study answers that question with a powerful, definitive no. For anyone out there wondering if the damage is permanent, this research is a beacon of hope. It is absolutely not too late. Okay, so time to unpack the science. A claim that big needs some serious proof to back it up, so let's get into the data. And listen, this was not some small weekend study. We're talking about researchers digging through 18 years of health data for more than 9,400 adults across 12 different countries. This data is robust, it's long-term, it's global, which makes what they found even more credible. So what did all that data show? The conclusion was just unavoidable. People who made the decision to quit smoking had a noticeably slower rate of cognitive decline than the folks who kept smoking. The act of quitting itself was like hitting the brakes on that decline. Let's break that down a bit. First, they looked at memory. Your ability to remember things. They found that former smokers saw a real, measurable slowdown in how fast their memory was declining. By about 20%. That is a huge, meaningful improvement in protecting one of your most vital brain functions. But then they looked at something called verbal fluency. That's your ability to find the right words when you need them, to speak clearly. And here, the effect of quitting was just, wow, it was even more dramatic. By about 50%. Think about that for a second. Quitting smoking cut the rate of decline in verbal fluency in half compared to people who kept smoking. That is a massive, life-altering difference. And you don't have to just take my word for it. Here's what the lead author of the study, Dr. Mikola Bloomberg, said. She pointed out that this is so important because older smokers, the ones with the highest health risks, are often the ones who think, why bother quitting now? This study gives them a powerful new reason. So how does this even work? Well, smoking wages a war on the brain. It damages all those tiny blood vessels that deliver oxygen, it directly harms the parts of the brain you use for thinking, and it causes chronic inflammation. When you quit, you give your body a chance to slow all that damage down. And all of this brings us to our final and I think most important section. It is truly never too late. So, what's the bottom line here? The single biggest takeaway is just how empowering this is. This research proves you have agency. Choosing to quit smoking, no matter how old you are or how long you've smoked, is one of the most powerful things you can do to put the future of your brain back in your own hands. And it's not just the researchers saying this. Doctors on the front lines, like Dr. Jimmy Johannes, who wasn't even involved in the study, see this as a game changer. He says this just reinforces what he can tell his patients, that quitting is one of the absolute best things they can do for their long-term brain health. So we end here. The science is clear, and the message is one of incredible hope and empowerment. The past is the past, but the future? That's still unwritten. The only question left is, what will your next chapter be?